We thank you so much for watching Law School Made Easy at Law School Made Easy 256. We want to look at the meaning of land and appreciate what land means, and then we know the rights of people who own land. So we want to begin by the definition of land. Now, literally, the definition of land is that land is an immovable and indestructible three-dimension consisting of the earth's surface, the space above, and the space below. That's what we mean by land. It's an immovable. Immovable. Now, immovable means you can only say that I was in Mukono and they sent me my land. Land is an immovable and indestructible three-dimension consisting of the earth's surface, the space above, and the space below. So there is an element of three-dimension that is consisting of the earth's surface, the space above, and the space below. So what do we mean by this? Literally, we mean that land is owned in three ways. That somebody who owns the land is the same person who owns the space above and the person who owns the space below. Now, let us look at the rights of somebody who owns the space below. Now, the space below, we have a case of Elwis versus gas company. Now, in Elwis case, they found a boat 6 feet below the land, the surface of the land, 6 feet below the surface of the land. And the issue was that boat belonged to who? And court held that the fact that the boat was 6 feet below the surface of the land, that one means it belonged to the owner of the surface, the owner of the land. That if you own this surface, it literally means that you are the same person who owns the space below. So this boat was given to the owner of the land. And also we have the rights of land above. The rights above the surface. That who owns those rights? Let me make this clear. You own the earth's surface to the space up to the heaven. That is what you own. Of course, like the law works, we have general rules and exceptions. So when we get to the exceptions, we shall even appreciate this better. But let's look at a case explaining owning the rights above the surface. Now, we have a case of Kelson versus the Imperial Tobacco. Now, Imperial Tobacco was putting up a poster, I think now, about their products and the like. So the poster protrude and entered into Kelson's land. Some books say 4 inch, others 8 or 6, but some inches portrayed into the space of Kelson. Now, Kelson sued, and the issue was whether they had trespassed or that land belonged to Kelson. So, court held that everything above, the space above, is for the owner of the surface. Is for the owner of the land. So, meaning that they had trespassed into his land because that space belongs to the person who owns the land. Now, I also want us to appreciate the element of trespass. That the people who were contacted to erect that building were not blamed. That they didn't have the intention. They had only come to erect the building. For them, they thought the space belonged to the person who had contracted them. Now, they were not intentional in their act, and that explains why they were not blamed or convicted or anything. But what we must know is that that space belonged to Kelson. So, we have now seen that the space above the land and the space below the land is owned by the person who owns the surface. We are now clear about that. Now, let us appreciate the extent in both. That if you are claiming to own the space above, the way it was in Kelson's case, if the space above is yours, to which extent? Because let us agree and be analytic about this. The aviation, the aeroplanes that you see flying every day, if it means the space above, all of it is owned by the owner of the surface, then every day we would have more than 1 billion cases of trespass about aeroplanes. Because we see them moving up. They pass by land, I sue them. They pass Alvin's land, he sues them. They pass Mozambique's land, he sues them. Like, before it reaches Kenya, we have 1 billion cases put in court. Because we are saying the space above is owned by the person who owns the surface. But now, to what extent? This was explained in the case of Boston Rains versus Skyviews. Now, in Boston Rains, the plaintiff sued, claiming that there had been trespass of the airplane, that it had moved, I think, 700 feet above their land. And now, the question was now, what really amounted to trespass by an airplane? That how can we have, which extent do you own? Because now, if you look at the Civil Aviation Act, it clearly explains all what is needed in there. But we are saying, to what extent can you own? Now, in this case, it was held that the space above, the owner only owns where you can stop, where you can fully utilize that. For example, if you can only utilize, let's say you built a flat of 6 floors, there is where you stop owning. Where you can utilize is where you stop. You cannot own where you have not utilized. But even then, where you stop, a reasonable height, you can own a reasonable height where the airplanes cannot reach, to avoid the issues of trespass. So the extent is where you can end using the land. Let's take an example of this building you see. Crested Towers in Kampala here. I can see it from where I am. Crested Towers. Now, Crested Towers, it has about 21 floors. So the owner can only occupy the 21 floors. That is where the abandoned ends. That is the extent. And the same principle applies down. That down, you can only enjoy to where you stop. For example, if you're building a house, you start with the foundation. Where you stop with the foundation and then you move up, that is where you stop. So you cannot claim that I own everything down there. You can only own where you can stop enjoying, where you stop, the usage of the land stops. That is where you can only enjoy. Now, we have an issue. Of course, when you're owning the space down, we can look at the NEMA Act, where you must tell them if you're going to do anything. The Mining Act, those are only acts which will prevent you from enjoying fully all your rights on, I think, Section 3 of the Mining Act. Now, let us now appreciate the idea of condominium. The idea of condominium, for example, in Uganda, can also limit you from enjoying the land. For example, if this is my unit on the first floor, I stop on the first floor, I cannot enjoy the space above the other unit, because now the other unit belongs to someone else. So condominium property also becomes an exception to the enjoyment of your land. Remember, you have a you have a right under Article 26 to enjoy your property the way you have. But the same article deprives you of the right to enjoy the land. They are saying that you will be compensated. It is spot on. instantly compensated, and then your land will be taken away in case the government wants to use it, let's say, for building a barracks, for building a public, for public use, basically. So we are saying that much as you enjoy, you have the rights of this land, but somehow, your rights can be taken away from you. Let's appreciate Article 244 of the Constitution that puts into consideration in its opening that we put into consideration the rights given to you under Article 26. But for purposes of this article, all minerals shall belong to the government of Uganda, holding them on behalf of Ugandans. So meaning that if you are occupying a land which has minerals down there, then that is not your land. The right should be, because that land now has minerals, and remember the ground norm under Article 244 has vested all minerals, wherever they are, under the government of Uganda. So what the government of Uganda does, it invokes Article 26 that they will compensate you. And then if you go in Acquisition Land Act, in Acquisition Land Act, Section 2 to Section 7, it clearly explains the processes how government will acquire this land from you. So what are we saying in this video? We are saying that much as you have the rights, you enjoy the surface, the rights above and the rights below, but these rights can be taken away from you. Number one, the NEMA Act takes away from you. You can see the incident, people in Rubiji. Clear example. We have the Mining Act, supported by Article 244 of the Constitution. Then we have the condominium properties that they deprive of your right. You only now own the unit you are in. You can't own the other unit or up because that now belongs to someone else. So that is what we mean by land. First, you must appreciate that land is an immovable property. You must appreciate that somebody who owns land has the rights to enjoy it, but then those rights are also curtailed. There are exceptions to enjoying your land. You don't say that me, I'm enjoying my land, you cannot do this. No. You must read Article 26 and 244 and appreciate them as a whole in its totality. So we thank you so much. Our next video shall be about fixtures and chattels in land, but this is the meaning of land. Thank you so much. Subscribe, share, like our videos. Thank you.